Joining me now, former Packers executive, currently the executive director of the Morad Center at Villanova. He writes for Sports Illustrated, and his Business of Sports pod is must-listen-to material, certainly this week. He is Andrew Brandt, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, sir?
Doing well, my friend. Good to be with you as always.
Same here. Okay, so lay out for me what you think is playing out in Green Bay right now, Andrew.
Take you back a little bit because I did think there was no credence to 2021 Aaron Rodgers not being in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
He was not going to retire. The Packers were not going to trade him. The Packers weren't ready to promote Jordan Love, and they wanted Aaron Rodgers' MVP abilities while he keeps the seat warm for the future. And I think what drove some of his unsatisfaction last year in the offseason was he wanted to know the plan. Like, are we moving on to Love next year? What's the plan? How are we going to do this? If we're moving on, why not do it now? All those kind of things. Now we get to the end of 2021, and we're in that 2022 phase. Rich, I've always thought since draft day 2020, when they picked Jordan Love, that this would be the transition. I know Aaron sat for 3 years. I know that's what Jordan Love could do as well. But I just felt like 2 years. And in this day and age, first-round quarterbacks hardly even sit 3 games, let alone 3 years. So I just think, and I'm not going to change my mind, I think this has been the Packers' plan for 2 years to move to Love in 2022. You combine that with the fact that Aaron's been very reflective and had some issues with the team last year. I know some of that's been cleaned up. But I just think, I think it's time. I think both sides are going to part with each other. I don't know if that's retirement or trade. We can talk more about that. But I just think this is moving a different direction.
So I guess, I hear all of that, but Rodgers keeps getting better. And I know that the results got worse with Rodgers getting better this year, that they didn't even make the NFC Championship game this time around. But I think, all of that can be thrown together with circumstance and a red-hot team that came in to one-and-done them, as opposed to this roster can't work. So let's walk through just at least this part. Rodgers returns. What's the cap looking like right now? Let's just say Rodgers says, you know what? I have reflected. You know what? I can stay here longer than any Green Bay quarterback ever has. I love Devontae. I love my home. I love my golf club, whatever. And he decides, after all of this, I do want to come back. And they sit there and decide, well, Aaron sat for 3 years. Jordan can too. Walk me through what that looks like first before we move on and turn the page.
Well, you're talking to the guy who managed the cap in Green Bay for 10 years.
I know.
And they're a very well-managed cap, at least as far as I've known, before me, after me. I just think that, let's be real, cap problems are sometimes put out there for reasons. And you have a coach that handles the team. You have a general manager that handles the draft and bringing in talent. And you have a cap manager that handles that. And the good teams get those things done. I just think, listen, the Packers are a draft and develop team. They have probably half their roster on rookie contracts. I think there are ways to manage the cap for the Green Bay Packers that people are all up in arms. Like, what are they going to do? They'll get it done if they want. The bigger issue, as you said, Rich, and you're talking to a charter member of the Aaron Rodgers fan club. He's playing great. He's the MVP again, 2 years in a row. I just think the Packers have to decide what you're suggesting does turn out to be a lame duck situation again. So I just think they have to decide now. It's not going to be 3 years till Love. It's going to be maybe 4 years till Love, because what's in it for Aaron, right? What's in it for Aaron to be the lame duck in 2022? And maybe this was the lame duck year. We'll find out soon. But I just think the Packers can't have their cake and eat it too anymore. They have to make a commitment to Aaron that binds him to the team, I think, more than 2022, or they have to move to Love. That's just my feeling.
Mm-hmm. And so when you say that cap can be worked out, the whole conversation of Adams and Rodgers and, whatever else they may have put on the credit card, that you're not concerned about that. You think that
I think there's probably, to quote a phrase, there's some fat on the roster that they could trim. There's a franchise tag in play for Adams. If Rodgers stays, everyone knows what you can do with these big contracts. Bonus out the salary, push out the money. The Packers, as I know so well, have been reticent to do a lot of push out, but this would be a situation that would warrant that.
Andrew Brandt, former NFL executive with the Packers, and as you pointed out, a longtime capologist for Green Bay right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so now you mentioned the other options for Aaron Rodgers. You mentioned the retirement word. Do you really think he would retire? I mean, honestly, Jeopardy's not a possibility. I mean, he doesn't have the production companies that Brady has, right? I mean, obviously he can find whatever he wants to do, but he's not even 40 yet, and we just saw Brady do what he did at 44. So, really think?
I get it, Rich. I just think, if you've listened to him the past year, and I know everyone will jump on a lot of the things he said, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just the reflective nature that he's been talking about these past few weeks and months. And even in his comments the other day after the game, it seemed less about whether I want to be with the Packers as opposed to a new team as to whether I want to keep playing. And listen, I get it. He's at the top of his game. And why wouldn't he not want to keep playing? Of course, everybody would want to keep playing at the top of the game, top of the league. But I just sense a zen about him. I haven't talked to him. I don't know this. I just sense this kind of serene nature, like savoring every moment, savoring walking out of Lambeau, savoring this, that this is an option, that this is on the table. So, and when the Packers say we want him back, I don't think they're saying we're not going to trade him. I think they're saying we hope he comes back. So these are all things in play, and we're going to find out hopefully pretty soon.
Okay, so let's just say there is a parting of the ways. Let's make people smarter of what to look for and how it's going to work and what the mechanics are of something like that. What happens?
You mean trade or retirement?
Trade. Honestly, I don't think he's retiring. The guy's too damn good. He's too damn good, and I think he does. Like, you mentioned, you said, you're not talking about what quote unquote other stuff. It looks like he clearly does relish having platforms to say whatever's on his mind. Even though he's not being fact checked in real time a lot, Right. So I think he enjoys everything that's going on right now. And he's so damn good. Like, he's so good. And you saw what Brady was able to do, and he could choose the Peyton Manning option, so to ride off into the sunset. I mean, so how does a trade work? What do you think?
Well, the best thing the Packers did in getting him back last year was they gave him an out, and I thought maybe to get him back they'd have to give him an out in 2022, meaning he'd be free to sign anywhere. Packers get nothing. They gave him an out in 2023, which means they can trade him this year and get a bounty. So if that's the move, you've just said it, how good he is. I don't know if there's been a bigger trade in terms of compensation back, but you can look at this like, oh, my God, the Packers played this immensely well. They got 2 years of MVP play, and now look what they're getting. And as to what they're getting, yeah, just throw it all in there, right? Like a couple to 2 to 3 ones, good young players in the mix. I mean, how many teams are going to be bidding for Aaron Rodgers? But bidding creates leverage, and leverage creates good packages.
But doesn't Aaron have to also be part of where he winds up, right? And
yeah.
And
that was part of the language. It was soft language, not written.
Right.
When he came back, he got the out in 2023, and this loose language about being part of the team, part of the decision in 2022. And then people can start connecting the dots if Nathaniel Hackett gets the Denver job. I mean, these are all speculation, of course,
yes.
But there are things out there.
Yeah. So, okay. how does it work? They sit down and decide this is, where Rodgers says, I'm not coming back, because the Packers did say, you heard what Matt LaFleur said. He said that he thinks it's going to be different this offseason around because the communication's terrific. Rodgers essentially said, I'll make this decision before free agency, whereas last year it was so open-ended, it went all the way to the minute training camp hit.
Right.
So, how crystal ball it for me, since you think that this is it that they're going to have to, part ways, that you think that this has always been the plan for Green Bay, which Rodgers saw coming, the minute he was having his drink on draft night in 2020 and found it within himself to stay put for 2 years where he could feel comfortable doing it. So walk me through how this does work, what the mechanics are if they do, in fact, part ways, and he wants to keep playing as he should. What do you think?
Matt LaFleur said he had a long conversation yesterday or Monday, and I really would love to be a fly on the wall, because if I'm representing Aaron, I'm saying, what's the plan now? Well, we want Aaron back. When? Like, for how long? You want to lame duck? When do you want to go to Jordan? Well, because they don't want to answer that question. And I think Aaron's got to know the plan, and this puts a lot of pressure on the Packers. Forget cap. We'll work on the cap.
Right.
We're going to commit to you more than 2022. I mean, again, taking away the retirement question, if that's the case, I can see him staying. But if the case is, hey, we got to go to Jordan, and you waited 3 years, let's just play this year out. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers wants that. So then the decision is, all right, let's find a home. And if we get to that, then Aaron's very involved. And what about Denver? And what about this team? And what about that team? Do the right thing by Aaron, get the best package. All those things come into play. But I continue to get back to the question is, and this was the question a year ago. You take a first-round quarterback, he's going to play. He's not going to be flipped. He's not going to back up forever. He's going to play. Hell, even Johnny Manziel played. So when is Jordan Love going to play? I dealt with this for 3 years, 15 years ago, where Aaron's camp was saying, is he ever going to play? And Brett's camp was saying, I don't like coming to work every day and sitting with my replacement. So this is a lot to manage, and the Packers have to decide how much they want to go through this.
Isn't also, back you mentioned Andrew Brandt, longtime executive in the league with the Packers here on the Rich Eisen Show. You mentioned the two camps back in the day, Favre's camp and Rodgers' camp. Aren't they the same camp now? Aren't they both quarterbacks represented by the same agent? Our friend David Dunn? Isn't that the case?
Actually, they are. Yes,
so, I mean, this is wild,
that does
man.
Complicate it. But Aaron's, as people know, Aaron's got CAA very involved with his camp as well, even though David has been doing the contract. So, there are a lot of parties involved.
What's Gutekunst thinking right now, do you think?
I keep going to that image, Rich. April, the pandemic draft, everyone's in their home and basement with their kids. I keep going to that image of a smiling Brian Gutekunst and a smiling Matt LaFleur. They traded up for Jordan Love. So I get it. You got the best player in the league on your team, but what's the plan there? I don't think they want to waste that draft pick. I don't. I know Gutekunst comes from the Ted Thompson disciple of, live and die by your draft picks. So I think it's just fascinating that we have these two forces right now. And I keep getting back to my premise. Aaron's got to know the plan. And the plan is all in on Aaron? Great. The plan is let's just run it back a year and then Jordan? I don't know if he wants that.
Doesn't he get the Brady out if that happens? Because we mentioned we mentioned, I guess to bring this all full circle, we mentioned or at least I did, the Peyton Manning plan, right? Which is, go to Denver and ride off into the sunset with your championship there. But the Brady plan is you get to go wherever you want. So wouldn't he get to do that if he stays one more year? Right. I mean, that's the contract. But I get back to the loose language about 2022. Right.
Does he want that? Does he want, again, to wait a year to do that when he can do it now, I think, if he tells them that's what he wants to do, and they can move to Love, which, getting back to our start, that I think was the plan in 2020 to begin with.
Okay, so then crystal ball it for me best you can. Trust me, we'll have you back. We'll check your work. What do you think?
I think he's traded.
Okay, and that happens when? Right around whenever, and then it becomes official middle of March, right?
Correct, and I think he's a big part of the decision and where it goes. I think it's a mutual decision to move on from Aaron, yes.
Well, everybody go listen to the Business of Sports podcast because you talk about all this stuff even more in depth this week, and we'll have you back on, Andrew. Thanks for the time.
Always a pleasure, Rich.
You got it. At Andrew Brandt on Twitter. I follow him. You should as well, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.